13 black celebrities time somehow forgot. What if aging is not as unstoppable as most people believe? Look at these faces. 30 years have passed. Trends have changed, entire generations have come and gone, yet somehow they still look almost untouched. While time left lines, stress, and wear on so many others, these black celebrities seem to move through the decades with astonishing ease. This is not about fantasy or miracle talk. It is about discipline, genetics, mindset, recovery, and choices repeated for years. In this video, we uncover the stars who make aging look almost optional. Stay with us until the end and subscribe to the Black Excellence list for more unforgettable stories. Pharrell Williams. Pharrell Williams has become the kind of celebrity people mention whenever the conversation turns to aging and disbelief. Not because he looks merely good for his age, but because he seems to have carried the same face across multiple eras of fame with barely any visible disruption. When he first rose in the 1990s as one half of the Neptunes, he already had the features people still point to. Now smooth skin, soft contours, bright eyes, and an expression that never seemed burdened by wear. Decades have passed since then. Entire musical generations have come and gone. Yet Pharrell, born on April 5, 1973, still appears so visually consistent that side-by-side images from the late 1990s and the 2020s continue to trigger the same reaction. How is this even possible? What makes his place on this list so strong is that the effect did not vanish as his fame expanded. He was there in the producer era, building records that shaped late 1990s and early 2000s hip-hop and pop. He was there in the fashion world, in award show culture, in global interviews, and then again at the center of a new wave when Happy turned him into one of the most recognizable faces in music all over again. Most people begin to look different as life accumulates on them. Their expressions harden, their eyes seem more tired, and the face starts carrying pressure in obvious ways. Pharrell never really followed that pattern. The most striking thing is not simply that lines are limited. It is that his face still looks clear, rested, and unusually light, as if fatigue never stayed long enough to leave a permanent mark. He has never leaned too heavily on mystery to explain it. In interviews around Human Race, the skincare brand he launched in 2020 with longtime dermatologist Dr. Elena Jones, Pharrell kept coming back to the same habits: exfoliation, moisture, and consistency. Allure reported that the line was built around cleanser, exfoliator, and moisturizer, and people later quoted him emphasizing exfoliation while also talking about protecting a youthful spirit. That matters because it shifts the story away from fantasy and back toward repetition. Skincare done once in a while does not create this kind of result. Years of simple habits practiced early and maintained without drama can. So what really keeps a face this fresh after 30 years? Genetics, discipline, or the way someone refuses to let stress settle in? With Pharrell, the answer seems to be some combination of all three. Whatever the exact formula is, he remains one of the clearest examples of a black celebrity whose appearance has changed so little over 3 decades that people still talk about it like a riddle. Bianca Lawson. Bianca Lawson feels almost unfair in a video like this because her case does not just rely on flattering photos or generous lighting. Her entire career has become evidence. She began appearing on television in the early 1990s with roles in Saved by the Bell, The New Class, and later, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Dawson's Creek, The Vampire Diaries, Pretty Little Liars, and Teen Wolf. Born on March 20, 1979, Lawson kept showing up in projects aimed at younger audiences long after most actors had visibly outgrown that lane. That is what makes her stand out so sharply. Here she was not simply aging well in private. She was repeatedly placed on screen next to younger casts, and she still looked like she belonged there. That visual consistency became impossible to ignore by the 2000s. When Pretty Little Liars premiered in 2010, Lawson was already in her early 30s, yet she played Maya St. Germain with the same soft, youthful presence that had defined her much earlier work. Then came Teen Wolf, where she still carried the same smooth complexion, open eyes, and lightness in expression that audiences had associated with her since the 1990s. Many actors preserve one feature well. Maybe the jawline, maybe the skin, maybe posture. Bianca Lawson's effect is different. The whole picture stays unusually intact. Her face never seemed to harden with time. It matured, but without losing the softness that first made her believable as a teenager on camera. Part of what makes this so striking is how quietly she has done it. Lawson has never built a public brand around looking young. She has stayed relatively private, avoided unnecessary spectacle, and rarely treated her appearance like a promotional gimmick. In a 2020 beauty interview, she spoke about the importance of good energy, kind people, optimism, and not letting uncontrollable things create too much strain. She also said what she eats affects how she looks and feels. That may sound simple, but over decades, calm habits often show up more clearly than expensive reinvention. How many people could spend 30 years in front of cameras and still look this close to where they started? Bianca Lawson fits this title because she did not just age gracefully. She moved through 3 decades of television with such a remarkably steady appearance that Hollywood itself kept treating her youthfulness as believable fact. Ernie Hudson. Ernie Hudson is one of the strongest names on this list because the shock is immediate the moment you learn his age. For decades, he has carried the kind of face and physical presence that seem almost untouched by the usual wear people expect after 30 years in the spotlight. When Congo arrived in 1995, Hudson was already close to 50, yet he looked younger than many actors a decade behind him. His frame was firm, his face was steady, and he moved with the calm control of someone completely at home in his body. Now, nearly 3 decades later, that same impression still holds. Born on December 17, 1945, Hudson is now 80, and yet recent reactions around Ghostbusters' Frozen Empire showed the same disbelief all over again. People were not just praising a familiar actor. They were trying to understand how a man in his late 70s could still look so physically composed. What makes his case especially striking is that his appearance is not built on illusion. It is tied to survival structure and effort. In 2024 interviews with People, Hudson spoke openly about being a 2-time cancer survivor. He said he beat prostate cancer in 1998 and later faced rectal cancer in 2011 after a routine checkup helped catch it. Those are the kinds of battles that can age a person fast physically and emotionally. Instead, Hudson came through them with a stronger sense of discipline. He described building a consistent wellness routine that includes workouts, walking, Pilates, skincare, hydration, and intermittent fasting. He also said he only became more serious about regular training in his 70s after noticing changes in his body and deciding to respond instead of surrendering. That is what makes him such a powerful fit for this title. Plenty of celebrities look youthful in photographs. Ernie Hudson looks durable in motion. His posture still holds. His build still reads strong. His face does not carry the heavy fatigue people often wear after decades of stress and illness. How many 80-year-olds make people stop and question whether time is even moving normally? Hudson's story suggests that aging well is not only about genetics. It is also about what happens after pain, after illness, after fear, when a person decides to keep showing up with intention. 3 decades may have passed, but Ernie Hudson still carries himself with the kind of vitality that makes the number feel almost unreal. Angela Bassett. Angela Bassett belongs near the very top of a list like this, because her case is not built on one flattering photo or one lucky red carpet moment. It has held for decades. When she broke through in the early 1990s with films like Boys and the Hood, and then exploded into another level with What's Love Got to Do With It in 1993, Bassett already looked like someone shaped by precision rather than softness. Her features were sharp, her posture was commanding, and her screen presence carried unusual physical control. Born on August 16, 1958, she is now 67. Yet when audiences see her in later work such as Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, or at major awards shows, the reaction is often the same. She does not merely look good for her age. She looks like time never managed to loosen the structure that made her striking in the first place. What makes Bassett so powerful in this conversation is that her youthfulness does not come across as fragile or cosmetic. It reads as strength preserved. Even after more than 30 years in the public eye, she has kept the kind of definition that many people lose much earlier. The upright carriage, the sculpted frame, the face that still photographs with clarity instead of fatigue. That is why she feels different from many other celebrities who age well. With Angela Bassett, the impression is not she still looks pretty young. It is how does she still look this solid? Her longevity on screen has reinforced that effect. She did not disappear and return. She stayed visible, and the consistency remained visible with her. A big part of that impression comes from how she carries life, not just how she wears makeup or steps onto a carpet. Bassett has spoken about attitude boundaries and not letting age define what she can do. In a 2025 People interview, she said she does not allow age to impose limits on her and credited a positive outlook as part of staying vibrant. That matters because stress and bitterness often leave visible marks long before age does. Bassett has also moved through motherhood loss and one of the most demanding careers in Hollywood without looking worn down by the journey. How many people can stay this radiant for 3 decades without ever looking like they are fighting to hold on? Angela Bassett fits this title because her appearance does not suggest denial. It suggests discipline, resilience, and a standard she has quietly maintained for an exceptionally long time. Morris Chestnut. Morris Chestnut fits this title because his face has never really gone through the dramatic shift people expect after 30 years in the public eye. When he broke through in Boys in the Hood in 1991, he already had the features that would become his signature smooth skin, a clean jawline, calm eyes, and a kind of controlled masculinity that made him stand out without ever looking forced. Born on January 1st, 1969, Chestnut is now 57. Yet, when audiences see him in recent work like The Best Man, The Final Chapters, or Watson, the reaction is often the same as it was decades ago. He still looks remarkably close to the man people remember from the 1990s. What makes his case so strong is that the change over time has been subtle rather than dramatic. Plenty of celebrities age well in flashes under the right lighting or in carefully edited photos. Morris Chestnut gives off that same impression in motion on camera and across different eras of his career. Side-by-side comparisons from the early 1990s to the 2020s do not show a face that collapsed under stress or overexposure. They show one that matured without losing its structure. The same bone structure holds. The same ease remains. Even the expression still feels familiar, which is often the first thing time alters in people. Part of that longevity comes from long-term discipline rather than last-minute correction. Chestnut has been known for taking fitness seriously enough to co-author The Cut, a health and fitness book inspired by his training for The Best Man holiday. That matters because it suggests maintenance over many years, not panic later in life. Just as important, he has kept his private life relatively stable, including a long marriage to Pam Bice since 1995. Public chaos has a way of showing up on the face, and Chestnut has largely avoided that pattern. How many people can stay this recognizable for more than 3 decades without looking like they are trying too hard to hold on? That is why Morris Chestnut belongs here. He does not look frozen in youth. He looks preserved by consistency, restraint, and a life that never let visible strain take over his face. Iman. Iman has always seemed to exist outside the ordinary pace of aging, not because she looks frozen, but because so little of what made her striking has ever faded. When she was dominating fashion in the late 20th century, her image was built on precision, the long neck, the sculpted cheekbones, the luminous skin, and the stillness that made even silence look elegant. By the mid-1990s, already in her 40s, she still carried the same refined power that had made her one of the most recognizable models in the world. Now, at 70, that impression remains remarkably intact. The face is softer than it once was, of course, but the structure still holds. The eyes are still alert, the posture still regal, and the overall effect is not decline, but control. What makes Iman such a strong fit for this title is that her longevity has never looked accidental. She has spoken for years about taking care of herself in ways that sound simple but matter over time. In a 2025 People feature tied to her 70th birthday, she said plainly that in Africa, getting older is seen as a privilege, not a problem. That perspective changes everything. Fear often ages people before time does. Iman's relationship with the years has never seemed rooted in panic. She has also been known for protecting her skin carefully, favoring hydration maintenance and restraint over aggressive correction. In her case, the result is visible. The face never lost its clarity, and age never settled into it as heaviness. There is also the matter of how she has carried grief and purpose. Since the death of David Bowie in 2016, Iman has lived through one of the deepest personal losses imaginable under public attention, yet she never turned that grief into spectacle. Instead, she moved through it privately with composure while continuing to honor his memory and her own life with grace. At the same time, her work beyond modeling, especially building a cosmetics brand for women with underserved skin tones, gave her lasting direction beyond the runway. How many people can move through fashion, fame, grief, and 7 decades of life without letting any of it diminish their presence? That is why Iman stands out here. She does not look young in a fragile way. She looks preserved in the most powerful sense, not untouched by life, but untouched by collapse. Larenz Tate. Larenz Tate belongs on this list because his face has stayed so visually close to its younger version that the passage of 30 years almost feels like a technicality. When he first broke through in the early 1990s, especially with Menace II Society in 1993, and then Love Jones in 1997, he carried the kind of youthful intensity that usually belongs to one chapter of an actor's life. The smooth skin, bright eyes, lean features, and easy charisma all fit the image of a rising star at the very beginning of his run. What makes Tate so striking now is that those same qualities never really disappeared. Born on September 8, 1975, he is now 50, yet recent appearances still create the same reaction. He looks far closer to his younger self than most people would expect after 3 decades in Hollywood. What makes his case stronger than a lot of aging well conversations is that his appearance has remained recognizable across very different eras of fame. He was unforgettable, as O-Dog then became a romantic icon in Love Jones, and later stepped into more mature roles like Councilman Rashad Tate in the Power universe. Through those shifts, the screen image evolved, but the face never seemed to harden. That is the key difference. A lot of actors keep one feature well, maybe the jawline, maybe the physique, maybe the smile. Larenz Tate kept the overall impression. The structure held. The expression stayed open. Even now, he gives off the same mix of youth and composure that made him stand out in the 1990s. Essence even described him as eternally fine, which captures exactly why he feels so right for this title. Part of that lasting effect may come from how carefully he has lived in public. Tate has maintained a high-profile career while keeping much of his personal life steady and relatively quiet. People noted in 2024 that he has been married to Thomasina for more than 20 years, and that kind of long-term stability often shows up in ways people do not immediately notice. Faces tend to change faster when stress, chaos, and public turbulence settle in for too long. Tate's has not carried that kind of strain. How many people can stay this recognizable after 30 years without ever looking like they are chasing their younger self? That is why Larenz Tate works so well in a video like this. He does not look frozen. He looks uninterrupted, as if time moved forward but never got permission to rewrite what made his face memorable in the first place. Sanaa Lathan. Sanaa Lathan has always had the kind of beauty that feels calm rather than loud, which may be exactly why her slow-moving relationship with time feels so striking. When she began breaking through in the late 1990s with films like The Best Man and then Love and Basketball in 2000, she already carried the features people still associate with her now. Luminous skin, expressive eyes, balanced features, and a softness that never looked fragile. Born on September 19, 1971, Lathan is now 54 yet. When people compare her current appearances to the woman they remember from the turn of the millennium, the reaction is often the same. She still looks astonishingly close to that earlier version of herself. What makes her a strong fit for this title is that her appearance has held steady through multiple phases of visibility. She was the face of romantic drama, then a familiar screen presence across film, television, and later directing, yet the visual shift never became dramatic. A lot of actresses remain attractive over time, but Sanaa Lathan's difference is how little strain ever seems to settle into her face. The skin still looks clear, the structure still reads balanced, and her expression still carries that same ease audiences saw decades ago. Even now, she rarely gives off the impression of someone fighting to look younger. Instead, she looks like someone whose life has not exhausted her. That last part matters more than it sounds. In a 2024 People interview, Lathan spoke openly about giving up alcohol in 2018 and described how that change affected her life. She said she did not believe she would have been able to direct a major studio film if she had not stopped. That detail makes her story richer, because it suggests that what people see on the outside may also reflect choices made to protect clarity, energy, and stability from the inside. How many faces stay this open after 30 years without some deeper kind of balance behind them? Sanaa Lathan belongs here because she does not just look younger than expected. She looks unburdened in a way that very few public figures manage to sustain across 3 full decades. Vivica A. Fox. Vivica A. Fox fits this title because she has never lost the sharpness that first made her unforgettable. When she broke through in 1996 with Independence Day and Set It Off, she was already in her early 30s. Yet she carried herself with the kind of physical confidence and visual precision that made her seem younger, faster, and almost untouchable. Her face had definition, her body had tone, and her energy had edge. That same combination still stands out today. Born on July 30th, 1964, Fox is now 61, but recent appearances still trigger the same double take. The structure is still there, the posture still holds, and the woman people remember from the 1990s has not drifted as far away as time usually demands. What makes her so effective in a video like this is that her longevity reads as maintenance, not accident. She did not vanish for 20 years and return under flattering lighting. She stayed visible. She kept working. She continued appearing in film, television, and public events while preserving the look that first made audiences pay attention. In 2024, People quoted Fox, saying she tries to drink her water, take care of herself, and stay happy. That answer sounds simple, but it matches the image she gives off. Her face does not carry the collapsed exhaustion people often wear after decades in entertainment. It still looks alert, sculpted, and controlled. There is also something important in the way she talks about this stage of life. In another 2024 People interview, Fox said she was so comfortable in the skin I'm in as she approached 60. That kind of comfort matters more than people think. Fear of aging often shows up before aging itself does. Fox's public image has always been built on confidence, and now that confidence seems to be doing part of the work, time usually undoes. How many people can stay this recognizable after 3 decades without looking like they're fighting to hold on? Vivica A. Fox belongs here because she does not look preserved in a fragile way. She looks maintained by attitude, routine, and a refusal to let the years steal the force that made her memorable in the first place. Sheryl Lee Ralph. Sheryl Lee Ralph fits this title because she does not give the impression of someone trying to look younger. She gives the impression of someone who never let disappointment delay or pressure settle permanently into her face. When audiences first knew her from Dreamgirls and later through television work like Moesha, she already carried the poise posture and vocal force that made her unforgettable. What is remarkable now is how much of that presence still remains intact. Born on December 30th, 1956, Ralph is now 69. Yet her recent rise through Abbott Elementary has not only reminded people how talented she is, it has reminded them how little her overall presence seems to have faded after 3 decades in the public eye. What makes her such a strong match for this list is that the evidence is visible in motion, not just in old photographs. On Abbott Elementary, she does not come across as a veteran performer relying on reputation alone. She still stands upright, speaks with force, and carries herself with the same confidence that made her a star long before this current chapter. That matters because many performers remain beautiful as they age, but not all of them keep that same level of vitality. Ralph does. And the contrast becomes even sharper when you remember how long she waited for mainstream recognition to catch up with her. The career was there for decades. The Emmy and this late career spotlight came much later. Yet when the moment finally arrived, she looked fully ready for it. There are also concrete reasons behind that steadiness. In a 2024 People cover story, Ralph said she slimmed down without weight loss drugs after a doctor warned her she was obese on the inside. She described making lifestyle changes through healthier food, regular movement hydration, fresh air, and sunlight, and said she has not had plastic surgery. That detail adds real weight to the story because it turns the result into something more than luck. How many people can wait decades for their biggest spotlight and still step into it looking this strong? Sheryl Lee Ralph belongs here because after 30 years, she does not look untouched by life. She looks like someone who endured life, adapted, and kept her light from dimming. Phylicia Rashad. Phylicia Rashad belongs on this list because her face has never carried the kind of visible strain people usually expect after 30 years in the spotlight. When audiences knew her best as Claire Huxtable on The Cosby Show in the 1980s and early 1990s, she already projected a rare kind of beauty, not flashy, not fragile, but composed, intelligent, and deeply self-possessed. Born on June 19, 1948, Rashad is now 77. Yet even in recent appearances, the same impression remains. The skin still looks refined, the eyes still feel clear, and the overall presence still reads as calm rather than worn. What makes her especially compelling in a video like this is that her longevity has never depended on spectacle. She did not build a brand around looking younger. She built a life around steadiness. In a 2020 AARP interview, Rashad said she had been a student of Siddha yoga meditation for 40 years. That one detail says a lot. 40 years of breath stillness and inward discipline can shape more than a mood. It can shape the face itself. Long before wellness became fashionable, she had already created a rhythm built on quiet reflection and self-control. Her life has not been free of pressure either. Over the decades, Rashad moved from television icon to stage actress, then made history in 2004 as the first Black woman to win the Tony Award for Best Actress in a Play, later returning to theater direction and academia, including serving as Dean of Howard University's College of Fine Arts until 2024. Through all those transitions, her face never took on the frantic look that fame and controversy often leave behind. How many people can move through television Broadway, teaching, and public scrutiny without letting any of it harden their face? That is why Phylicia Rashad fits this title so well. She does not look preserved by denial. She looks sustained by grace, inward discipline, and a life that never taught her to panic in the presence of time. Patti LaBelle. Patti LaBelle belongs in a video like this because she does not give the impression of someone who simply held on to youth. She gives the impression of someone whose fire never went out. When audiences watched her in the 1990s, she was already past the age when the entertainment industry usually starts trying to soften women into nostalgia. Instead, Patti came in louder, stronger, and more alive. Her face was expressive. her skin still radiant under stage lights, and her energy so explosive that age almost felt irrelevant the moment she opened her mouth. Born on May 24, 1944, Patti LaBelle is now 81, and that alone is enough to make her one of the most striking names on this list. The shock is not just that she still looks good, it is that she still carries the same electricity people remember from decades ago. What makes her fit this title so well is that the effect goes beyond photographs. Patti still performs like someone who never agreed to shrink with time. That matters. Plenty of people age gracefully in still images. Very few move through a stage with the same spark attitude and vocal force after 30 years in the public eye. And her story becomes even more impressive when you remember what her body has had to carry. After turning 50, Patti was diagnosed with diabetes, something she has spoken about openly for years. Instead of letting that diagnosis slow everything down, she changed how she ate, took her health more seriously, and kept going. That kind of adjustment matters because it turns appearance into evidence of endurance, not luck. There is also something deeply emotional in the way Patti has aged. She has lived through loss, fear, reinvention, and decades of pressure, yet her face never seems emptied out by life. It still looks animated, still looks engaged, still looks connected to joy. How many people reach their 80s and still carry this much visible life in their face? That is why Patti LaBelle stands out here. She does not look untouched by time. She looks like someone who kept feeding her spirit so fully that time never got to dim what people noticed first. After 30 years, the voice is still there, the presence is still there, and the glow somehow is too. Gladys Knight. Gladys Knight belongs on this list because her kind of longevity does not look artificial or exaggerated. It looks lived in, centered, and astonishingly intact. When people think of Gladys Knight, they usually think first of the voice, rich, steady, unmistakable. But over the past 30 years, another thing has become impossible to ignore: how little her overall presence seems to have dimmed. Born on May 28, 1944, Knight is now 81, yet she still carries the same composure, elegance, and facial warmth that made her instantly recognizable decades ago. She is not frozen in time, but she has aged at such a measured pace that the effect still feels almost unreal. What makes her especially strong for this title is that her youthfulness has never depended on trying to appear younger than she is. Gladys Knight has always carried maturity with grace, even in earlier eras of fame. That is why the contrast feels so striking now. In the 1990s, she already looked poised, polished, and fully formed. 3 decades later, the same structure remains: the upright posture, the calm expression, the clear eyes, and that luminous smile that still reads as alive rather than tired. A lot of performers keep their beauty, far fewer keep their light. Gladys Knight has managed both. Her story also makes this feel earned. She has not moved through life untouched. She survived breast cancer after an early diagnosis in 2004, and she has continued working across music, television, and live performance without letting hardship hollow out her presence. Over a career that began in childhood, she has won 7 Grammy Awards, scored major hits with Gladys Knight and the Pips, and as a solo artist, and remained active across generations. That kind of staying power usually leaves visible strain behind. In her case, it somehow never settled too deeply into her face. How many people reach their 80s and still carry this much visible warmth, steadiness, and life? That is why Gladys Knight fits this title so beautifully. She does not look young in a forced way. She looks enduring. After 30 years, what still stands out is not just that she looks good. It is that she still looks like herself at full strength. 30 years is enough to change almost anyone. Yet these stars somehow made time look negotiable. So what is the real secret genetics, discipline, inner peace, or simply a way of living that most people never sustain long enough to see? Some of these faces seem to challenge everything we think we know about aging. But now, the debate is yours. Which celebrity truly looks the most untouched by time, and who surprised you the most on this list? Share your thoughts in the comments, and for more unforgettable stories celebrating beauty legacy and Black excellence, follow and subscribe to the Black Excellence List.